Hey guys, if you don't know me, I'm Alexa, and I hope you guys are having a great morning, afternoon, night. Whenever you're watching this, I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope you guys are having a great summer. I've personally just been trying to stay productive as I've been on college summer break since May, the beginning of May. So I've been trying to keep busy, doing things productive, and I feel like I've found that my YouTube videos are one of the things that keep me productive, and I genuinely do enjoy it. So I did ask you guys on Instagram what you wanted me to review, movies, TV, even books if you guys want. I've been a reader recently, which is kind of strange. I used to hate reading. I don't know how that happened, but so that's beside the point. But yeah, I got a specific comment on my Instagram saying or asking if I would review Inside Out 2, the movie that just came out a couple weeks ago. And I got really excited because I have a lot of thoughts on that movie. So I absolutely wanted to review it. I'm loading up my notes. I have a lot of notes. But yeah, I have a lot of thoughts, a lot of reactions I'd like to share with you guys. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Grab your blankets, your snacks, your drinks, all that. And yeah, let's just hop right into it. Oh, so before we get into it, well, two things. One, I do have a Disney podcast called the Disney Chat that I did about back in like my first semester of college. So from like September to like November, and we talked about everything Disney, from the movies, the theme parks, the songs, and it was a fun time. So if you guys are into Disney, if that's your thing, I would definitely recommend checking it out. And the second thing, it's a movie review. There's gonna be spoilers, okay? So a lot of spoilers. I have a lot of notes here. I'm basically talking about the ending of the movie, a bunch of other big aspects of the movie that at least I didn't expect. So yes, if you have not watched the movie yet, please go watch it first and then come back to this video. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So I am specifically going to be talking about this film in four different categories. So that's the characters, both the old and the new, and then the plots, the main plot and the more minor plots. There are the anxiety representation, something I really want to talk about, and also just any miscellaneous random other thoughts that I had. So yeah, I'm going to start off with the characters. So obviously we have to start off with the whole drive of the movie, if you will, the person who houses all of these emotions in her head, Riley Anderson. And so she is the character in which all the emotions live: joy, sadness, fear, all of them. They all live and are inside of Riley's head. That's the focus of the movie. And in the first film, we got to see Riley in the first 11 years of her life, and we got to see this big transition in her life when she moved from, I believe, Minnesota to Chicago. I believe that was it. And we got to see how she dealt with all of that and how her emotions kind of crapped out during that. And it was seemingly the first big transition in her life that we got to experience in this film. But then in terms of the second film, we got to see multiple other transitions of hers. So we got to see her prepare to go up to high school. We got to see her start puberty. We got to see her make new friends, which I thought was really, really important for her, and I'm really glad that they included that. And I really like how we got to see how she handled these transitions and how these events could be super anxiety inducing, and they showed that. And it can be even more so for certain people, and Riley definitely was a good example of that. Another thing I liked about Riley's character is that she shows that everyone makes mistakes and does the wrong thing sometimes. Like, nobody's a perfect person, and I feel like a lot of movies forget that. I feel like a lot of producers and directors and creators, I feel like they tend to give the perfect side to these characters, but they don't really give the flaws, the the mistakes, the issues, you know? So I'm glad that they showed that through Riley. I didn't love it when she abandoned her friends. Okay, I'm not crazy. I did not appreciate when she abandoned her friends, but that's the whole point. You know, she tried to impress the hockey team, which I'll get into later. She tried to impress these new people, uh, so that she could, but then she kind of walked away from from her old friends to make new friends, and obviously she went about it the wrong way. But that's the whole point of it, that nobody's perfect, and I like how this movie showed that. And just because you mess up and make mistakes sometimes, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person, which I also like that they included. So now that we talked about Riley, let's move on to the original emotions: joy, sadness, disgust, fear, and anger. So I'll be talking about them collectively as a group and then individually a little bit. First of all, I personally love all these characters so much. I think that they're funny, they're cute, they're witty sometimes. Um, I think their relationship with each other is absolutely iconic. I love that for them. And I also, some of them have the best one-liners, especially Fear, which I'll be talking about later. But, and Disgust. Disgust, she's a queen. We love. But I love how much they support each other throughout both movies and how they lift each other up. And, yeah, Sadness is adorable. She's so funny, even when she's not trying to be funny. She's one of those characters that she has these great jokes when she's not even trying to be funny. So I love that about her. Fear, absolute icon, has some great one-liners in the second film specifically, which I'll be naming later, but not right now. Disgust is sassy, she's hilarious, and doesn't take shit from anybody, which I appreciate, you know. And let me just say, Anger, being voiced by Lewis Black in both movies, was great. I loved that. It was absolutely perfect. He delivers the lines so well, and it's so fitting for this character specifically. And I just I love that his voice is like, the way he delivers lines. I love it. It's so good. I just specifically want to touch upon, or not touch upon, but like go deeper into Joy's character and how she kind of developed through the movie, because I feel like we got the most development between 1 and 2 from Joy. So I'll explain that. But I think that she's the one that changed the most. In the first film and for most of the second, she kind of did everything in her power to keep Riley as happy as she can be, which naturally she's Joy. She's gonna try to do that, right? But she doesn't want any of the bad memories to take up space in her mind, which I can understand, but at the same time, she takes all the memories and just tosses them into the back of her mind, which then she learns later on. We learn later on that Joy just doesn't understand that sometimes you can't always be happy. Life isn't perfect, and without the best memories, it would be hard to recognize the good memories, you know? So she finally accepts that in the end of at the end of Inside Out 2. And I loved the growth of her character and how she became more self-aware of her flaws, which, again, we all have flaws. That's the point. We all have flaws. And I like that Joy became more self-aware at the end of the movie. So now on to the newer emotions. So those new emotions are anxiety, envy, ennui, and embarrassment. Ennui? Yeah, I said that right. Okay. So starting with anxiety, who is my favorite new emotion, quite frankly, and she's played by Maya Hawke, which I'm not even gonna lie to you. I originally went to see this movie just to see Maya Hawke voice anxiety because I love her. I think she is amazing, gorgeous. Just she does everything. That woman could do no wrong in my eyes. Okay, but yes, I loved uh anxiety. I think that she's such an intricate character and has so many different layers to her. And I think Maya was the perfect person to play anxiety. I think if you guys watch Stranger Things and saw Robin, played by Maya Hawke, in season 3 and 4, I think that she is anxiety. Robin Buckley from Stranger Things is the human embodiment of anxiety, I think, at least in my opinion. But she's always talking, she's talking like a mile a minute, like I am right now. She talks a mile a minute. She's always so like she has to be doing something at every waking moment, and she's so energetic. She's very anxious. I just think that they're so similar, and that's why I think that she was absolutely perfect for the role. But I also just love how the character anxiety was meant to be the main villain in this movie, and yet in the end, the rest of the emotions kind of accepted her and realized that she didn't mean any type of harm to Riley. She just wanted to protect her. Anxiety, at the end of the day, anxiety is literally just trying to protect us. It might go a little out of hand at some points, but it's just trying. Anxiety is a normal emotion that just tries to protect us. And while that can get out of hand sometimes, it is kind of an essential emotion sometimes. So anxiety's character is more misunderstood more than anything, right? And I think that they've tried to make her the villain, but at the end, they just finally understood her more, which I did like about that. So now on to Envy. She's the little green girl. She looks like a little bit like Disgust a little bit. She's like bluish green, short hair, big eyes. I think she was adorable, first of all, which I would put pictures, by the way, but I don't want to get copyrighted, so I'm not going to do that. So describing is kind of the best I can do. But anyway, so I personally, I loved Envy. I thought she was so, so cute. I thought she was so funny. I kind of found myself laughing at everything she said, which is kind of like, you don't expect that out of a kid's, at least for me, I don't expect that out of a kid's movie, laughing at every single joke that a character says, because usually it's really corny and things like that. But that's one thing about this movie. I did not find anything about this movie to be corny. I just thought it was really just nice. I don't know. But yeah, honestly, in a way, I kind of saw Envy as Disgust's little sister. I thought that they looked similar, and like I liked that interaction. I think it was one of Envy's first lines where she saw Disgust's hair, and of course she got envious, and she goes, "I want that," and then Disgust goes, "Oh yeah, not happening." I thought that was hilarious. I loved that so much. Again, I didn't see her as an evil character, even though she was probably supposed to be, but she was kind of just following Anxiety's lead, right? I didn't see really anything bad about her. She just wanted everything for Riley, or for herself. I don't know. But she just wanted everything that everyone else had. And I feel like at one point in her life, we're all like that. I don't know. But moving on to Embarrassment. So let me just say, I think Embarrassment was an absolute mush. I think he was so cute. I loved him. He's so me. I don't know. Just, he gets so embarrassed over every interaction he has. And I picture him as one of those people that like he probably does, like pictures, like he thinks of every embarrassing moment in your head when you sleep. I picture him as that, and that's me. So I get him. I understand him. So he was funny, he was sweet, and he helped Sadness out in the end, which I'll talk more about later. But I liked their friendship a lot, and there's not much else to say about him, but I really did like his character. Now moving on to Ennui, the last new motion. So here's the thing. Ennui had a lot's a little generous. He had a couple of, funny, dry humor, right? but I kind of thought he was definitely my least favorite character in this movie. He wasn't a bad character. He was just not really needed, to be honest. He didn't really do anything except sit on his phone, which I know is the point. But he didn't add anything to the movie, which I was kind of disappointed by, just because I saw him in the commercial and I was like, he's gonna be funny. He's gonna be really funny. But we didn't really get much of him. And not to be nitpicky, which I'm gonna be nitpicky, but shouldn't he have been in the first film if he was gonna be here at all? Because isn't boredom one of the first things we experience as a kid? I don't know. I just found it really weird that he came when Riley turned 13. It was just like, I'd be experiencing boredom when I was like 1. Like, I don't know what. So what, you're telling me Riley was never bored in her entire 13 years of living? I don't think so. But I mean, again, I'm being nitpicky. But I just found that really unrealistic. I'm not that anything in this movie was realistic, okay? I know. Nothing in this movie was realistic. It's a kid's movie. It's a cute, giggly little movie. I know. But that made me mad. Because, like, it didn't make me mad. What did it? It felt weird to me. Didn't make me mad. Just was a little weird to me. Moving on. Before I move on to the plot of the movie, I wanted to mention that I got this from Screen Rant. It's a movie, TV, web article. Not article. Website. Jesus. Okay, yes. So, Screen Rant is a movie, TV website where they have a bunch of articles about what's coming out and all that stuff. And according to Screen Rant, Meg LaFave, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. Meg LaFave, one of the writers of Inside Out 2, talks about how there were 2 other emotions that were supposed to be added to the sequel, shame and guilt. But ultimately, they did not make the cut, as these emotions would have taken away from anxiety, which is the emotion they really wanted to focus on. Shame and guilt could have the opportunity to appear in a 3rd film if that happens. Which, honestly, I can see. I think that'd be pretty cool. I think that shame should probably be a main thing. I don't know about guilt. No. Other way around. So I think that guilt could be added. But I don't think that shame should be, because I feel like embarrassment and shame, they're kind of similar. They're not the exact same thing, I know. But like, they're kind of similar. So I don't know. I think guilt would be pretty interesting though. But yeah, so those are my opinions on the characters. Let me know if you guys want me to do, like, post a ranking of all my characters in the movie, because I will do that. And actually, my brother loved that film too. So this film, the one I'm talking about, I don't know why I just said this, but so if I do end up doing a ranking, I will definitely invite him on. So yeah, let me know if you guys want me to do that. And with that said, I will move on to the plot of the movie. So I will go through the main plot, and then I will slowly go through the more minor, smaller plot lines that we got. So the main plot is what I will start with, which is the OG emotions getting Riley's sense of self back to headquarters. So, just in case y'all need a refresher, headquarters is essentially Riley's mind. So, it's where the emotions live in her brain. So, it's where they help Riley live her life. We are introduced to Riley's new emotions: anxiety, envy, embarrassment, and fear. Anxiety, envy, embarrassment, and ennui. There's a lot of E's in there. Holy God. Okay. Okay. But everything... So, yeah, they enter the movie. Everything seems fine. All the new emotions seem nice enough. And the OG emotions are like, oh, cool. We're going to have new friends. We're be good. No. Um, so no, it does not work out that way, obviously. So anxiety essentially kicks the OG emotions out of headquarters, along with Riley's sense of self, which was this little bulb in the center of her brain. I don't really know how to describe it. It was like a little bulb thing, and it had like a bunch of circles around it. Like it looked like a tree a little bit, like a tiny little tree in the brain. I don't know why I'm doing this trying to explain it. I don't know, but yeah, it was essentially just who she was as a person. It was supposed to represent who she is and her sense of self. While and the OG emotions and the old sense of self are transported out of headquarters, this new sense of self starts to grow in the middle of her brain. So it's like it used to be white, right? I'm sure it means like pure whatever. White represents purity or something like that. I'm sure that's probably what it is. But then this orange one starts to form, which is anxiety's color. And it starts to be really like, so all these anxious like thoughts are coming into her brain, sticking in her brain. And once it fully sprouts, I'm sure that's probably not a good thing. The original 5 emotions have to go on this journey to get back to headquarters and get the old sense of self back to Riley. But before the old sense of self can be restored, this new sense of self starts to formulate all these negative thoughts in Riley's brain. The main thought being, I'm not good enough. And the OG emotions finally get back to headquarters with Riley's old sense of self. However, they are struggling to get the new sense of self out of Riley's mind. This is because anxiety goes crazy and becomes frozen in place, controlling the emotion panel. That whole scene was super emotional for me, and I will explain why that is later on. But from there, Riley starts suffering from a panic attack, and Joy gets anxiety to stop spiraling. They get the new sense of self out, the unhealthy one, out of Riley's brain, and are able to attach the old sense of self back. I thought this whole journey was really interesting, and this whole movie, in my eyes at least, is like a metaphor for what happens to the rest of our emotions when anxiety takes over. Like they're all just gone. No other emotions felt. It's just we're clouded with anxiety, and this is coming from someone who has anxiety herself, like in like a diagnosed anxiety disorder. Now that I talked about the main plot, I'm going to go on to a couple of the more minor ones, starting with Riley abandoning her friends. I talked about this a little bit earlier, but I'm going to go into bigger detail about that. So, in the beginning of the movie, we see that Riley has made 2 friends, Bree and Grace. And I know I didn't speak about these friends when I was talking about the characters of this film, that they weren't there that often, but I did love them. I really liked that Riley was able to make new friends, and they seemed really sweet and like they were great friends for her. Which is why I absolutely hated when Riley abandoned them at this hockey camp that they went to, which I know, part of the movie, I know. So, yes, Riley, Grace, and Bree are invited to this. They're on the same hockey team, right? And they are scouted by their high school hockey coach. And they said that she's like, hey, there's this hockey camp this weekend. You should totally come and show us what you got. Try out. It's essentially a tryout, right? So obviously they're really freaking excited. They're going, but then while they're driving to this camp, Riley finds out that her friends are going to a different high school from her. The 2 of them are going to a different high school. Like they're going to go to the same high school, just not in the same one as Riley, which my heart broke for her. It really did. It kind of reminded me of when my friends and I just finally sunk in for us that we were all going to different colleges. It was just, it's completely different though when you're 13, I couldn't imagine this happening when me and my friends were 13. 18 is a little bit easier to tolerate, but 13, I would have been a mess, bro. I would have been an absolute mess. So I really felt for her here. Of course she's devastated. I would have been. Of course anxiety hears this and immediately wants her to branch out and make more friends. so she isn't going into high school alone, because it's the same high school that she's going to. So of course anxiety wants her to branch off and make more friends so that she's not alone when she gets there. So this causes Riley to ditch her friends for this high school girl named Val, who is apparently this amazing hockey player. I think she was like the cap. I think she had like 3 goals in one game in like her freshman year, I believe. I don't remember all the details about that, but she's really good. So obviously I was so sad when Riley ditched her friends for these random high school kids, but personally, if I was in 8th grade and I just found out that my friends and I were going to different high schools, my anxiety in my head probably would have done the same thing. Try to make me branch out, ditch my old friends so I can make new ones. Like, I love my friends. I love you guys so much. If you guys are watching, I love you so much. But my anxiety totally would have done that. It would have been like, you're going to be alone next year. If you don't try to make new friends, you got to do it. So I understood where Riley's anxiety was coming from. I truly did. But they do make up in the end, and they do stay friends even after they go separate high schools, which I did really love. I like how Riley admitted that she was wrong and apologized for ignoring her friends basically the whole weekend of the camp. The camp was a weekend. And I loved how that she knew she was wrong. And I liked Riley's self-awareness in the situation. Her character showed that we're not perfect human beings. We all make mistakes, and that's how we learn and grow as people. So then the third and final storyline. This is a very small storyline in the movie, but I feel like I should definitely mention it. The puberty storyline. So Riley had just turned 13. She's thriving, and then of course puberty hits. And we get to see her deal with the realities of growing up and changing, which the emotions in her head are of course going crazy, which definitely made me laugh. I mean, for example, sadness would lightly click the button on the emotion panel and to cue Riley's sadness, but Riley would just break out sobbing, and they thought the emotion panel was broken, which I thought was pretty funny. So yeah, this plot line was more for the comedic element, obviously, but I appreciated how they handled it overall, just because I feel like a lot of movies and TV shows stigmatize the idea of puberty and growing up, especially children's movies, which I've always found kind of weird. So I don't know if you guys watched Turning Red, that Disney film. I think it came out on Disney Plus. I don't think it was ever in the theaters, but that movie is where a girl turns into a red panda at random times. But that film talks about puberty pretty explicitly, pretty outright, And so many parents were pissed. They were like, you should not be showing kids this, which I found really, really weird, okay? That was really odd to me. But to each their own, I guess. But in Inside Out 2, they treated it as it should be treated, which it's normal. Everyone goes through it. So yeah. Now that we've talked about the plot lines, now I would like to dive into the anxiety representation a little bit. So, as I brought up in the title of this video, I suffer from generalized anxiety disorder. And I've struggled with it since I was around 5 or 6. But honestly, up until I was 14, I didn't really take it seriously. Obviously, in terms of children's films, anxiety is definitely not something that is really talked about. It's almost like producers and writers of these children's films try to shield children from it. And they try to shield the idea of anxiety from children. But this movie did the exact opposite of that and represented it in such a gentle and such a simple way that I really, really appreciated and really thought was really honest, honestly. And it wasn't so daunting that scared children, but it made it clear that Riley's anxiety really was taking a toll on her health and who she is, and it showed how real it is, to be honest. And This film 100% succeeded in explaining anxiety to people who don't experience it as heavily and as severely as others do. And yes, we all experience anxiety at some point in our life. They made that very clear. The movie made it very clear of that too. But for whether it be, studying for a test or practicing for a tournament, things like that. But at the same time, for some of us, we worry so much that every little thing in our lives we worry so much about every little detail of our lives, and it fully takes up our brain, and it's like we can't even focus on anything else. And it's this constant fear and worry that I simply cannot explain, to be honest, but I think this particular movie did it super well. I also really like how this movie showed how stress is sometimes needed in order for us to push ourselves to do well. But it can get to a point where it becomes too much and unhealthy. Anxiety is a completely normal emotion. They made that very clear, but sometimes we need to watch out for when it becomes really bad. And I don't believe I've mentioned this yet, but I went to see this movie twice in the theaters. Once with my brother and another time with my friends. I would have seen it a third time with my cousins, honestly, in theaters, because honestly, I enjoyed it that much. But your girl was broke, so I can't really spend that much. But now I'm just patiently waiting for it to come out on Disney Plus. But beside the point, I did see it twice in theaters, and there was one scene specifically where I lost it both times. And if you don't know me, that's a lot for me. I don't cry during any movies or books. I'm kind of a heartless bitch, to be honest, when it comes to when it comes to just any type of media, because I don't really cry with movies, TV, books. I don't really cry, but with this movie it really got to me. I cried both times when I saw it in theaters, but this one scene really got to me, and it was when Riley started having a full-blown panic attack while in the penalty box during her hockey game. And her legs were shaking, her heart was pounding, and she was struggling to breathe, and it was so powerful, man. The fact that this was in a kids movie is honestly, I dare to say, revolutionary, for me at least, because it showed adults and children that don't struggle with high anxiety or panic attacks, that people like that exist. And that's a lot to show kids, because I feel like a lot of kids don't get exposed to that. They don't know. So if they see someone struggling with anxiety, they'll think they're weird because they don't see it a lot in TV or movies or whatever. So I think it was so important to show, and I'm so glad that they did. And and it helped. Not only did it help people who don't experience high anxiety show that people like that exist, it helped people who do experience high anxiety like me, that you're valid, you're seen, you're not you shouldn't be ashamed of your anxiety, okay? That's the main point, and I think that it was so important to show that, and I'm really, really glad they did. I felt completely validated watching this movie, to be honest, and I'm sure a lot of people with anxiety did as well. All these thoughts were going through Riley's head as she was panicking. Thoughts like, I'm not good enough, I'm a bad friend, I'm selfish, things like that, among so many others that were completely self-deprecating. And that was her new anxiety sense of self that was being formed, the one that I was talking about earlier. They tried to pull the plug on it, all the emotions, but even with all the emotions pulling at it, they could not get it out. It was too strong. It was too strong of an attack on Riley that they could not get it to stop. Joy knew that the only way to get it to stop was to get anxiety to stop. So you, while this is going on, anxiety is at the emotion panel. And you can't see anything except orange moving all around sporadically. And you see, like, it looks like a tornado, like an orange tornado, to be honest. And that's the only way I can really describe it. And Joy finally, she knew that the only way to take the anxiety sense of self out and get her old sense of self back in was to stop anxiety from feeding this anxiety attack. So Joy finally managed to get through to anxiety, like get through, after pushing through the tornado of anxiety, she finally got to her at the emotion panel. And once she did, she didn't see anxiety moving around and controlling the panel like sporadically like she would usually do throughout the movie, which was what we expected, right? What we actually saw was that she was frozen in place with this huge terrified grin on her face. Or grin, I'm sorry. A huge terrified frown on her face. And it was like the anxiety went into overdrive and she couldn't even move to stop it. Joy tried to get her to move, but she couldn't. The tears definitely started falling when Joy said to anxiety that she needed to let Riley go, and that anxiety couldn't control who Riley is. And after grabbing anxiety and pulling her away from the emotion panel, they were all able to finally rip the anxiety sense of self out of Riley's brain with the help of anxiety. Riley finally calmed down from her anxiety attack and got back into the game. Another quote that really got to me in this scene was when Riley was weakened Riley, I'm so sorry. This scene makes me so emotional that I can't even think, to be honest. But it was a scene, it was still in this one scene, but when anxiety got out of that whole mess in the emotion panel, she was very weakened, and anxiety said to Joy, "I'm sorry, I was just trying to protect her," which, like I said, that's what anxiety is supposed to do. It's supposed to protect us and make us prepare ourselves and, keep ourselves in, like, keep our head in the game, but sometimes it can become too much, and that's what they were trying to do here. And I think it was just so powerful, and because that's what it is. It tries to come up with every single worst case scenario so that we are prepared for it if it happens. But our anxiety will tell us when it happens, obviously, but that's if it happens. And so I really, like I said, I did really like that anxiety wasn't really a villain per se. She had good intentions going into it, but she just completely got out of hand. Also, in terms of coming up with every worst case scenario, I really liked that scene where all those workers were working with anxiety and trying to come up with all these bad scenarios and sent them into Riley's mind, and that was causing her to struggle with sleeping. It was just such a relatable scene for me, and I think a lot of folks with anxiety disorders can agree that a lot of our worst thoughts come at night when we're trying to sleep. At least for me, it does. Everyone's anxiety works differently, I know, but I just thought that was such an honest way to describe how anxiety interferes with sleep a lot of the time. And yeah, I just think they portrayed it really, really well. Overall, I just think it's so important that everyone watches this film so they can understand anxiety better. Whether it's someone else's anxiety or their own, I feel like it's so important so they can understand it better. And just so they can see how it's completely okay to struggle and it shouldn't be something to be ashamed of. Up until I was a senior in high school, so only about a year or two ago, I felt like my anxiety disorder was something to hide and something I should be embarrassed about. It was almost like nobody else struggles like this, so why should you? Which, yes, that's completely ridiculous. I know that now. Completely unrealistic. Everyone struggles, I know that. It's just, my brain wasn't telling me that. It was telling me, only you're struggling right now. Nobody else is. Anxiety, man, let me tell you, it's crazy. Which, ironically enough, I used to, when my anxiety was, and my disorder was really, really bad. So back in like, I want to say sophomore year, I want to say, it was when we were online learning, which did not help, let me tell you. It was almost, I kept just, whenever my mom would ask me, like, she, or my dad, more specifically my dad, because he doesn't have anxiety like I do. So he would try to understand it, and he'd be like, can you describe it to me a little bit? Because I'm trying to understand it. And I would always say, it's like this thing in my head, this actual person in my head telling me that I'm not good enough and that nothing's going to work out for you. So it represents it perfectly in my mind, because that's literally what this movie is. It's little people in your head controlling your brain. And so, yeah, I just wish there was a film like this back when I was younger, because this film normalizes it in a perfectly child-friendly way, and it's just one of the many things that I loved about this movie. So now on to my final thoughts on this film. So now that I finished my anxiety spiel, obviously, first of all, I just have some random thoughts about this movie that I would like to share. So first of all, as I lightly delved into in the beginning of the video, there were a lot of quotes that I found either made me laugh or made me tear up, which obviously the ones I talked about made me bawl my eyes out. But there were other quotes that that I thought were so funny and I found hilarious. First of all, fear was so real when he was talking about anxiety and said, I don't agree with things she says or does. I just think I could fix her. I thought that was so funny. Me and my friends were laughing so hard when we heard that together. We thought that was so funny, which I still think it's so funny. I still think it's so funny. Like, same boy. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. But, I was like, sir, like, what? I thought that was so out of pocket for a kid's movie, but you know what? Go for it, King. We love it. But there was another, quote where Riley was really going through it the day she started hockey camp. This is the day she started puberty, I believe. And the camera pans inside of Riley's mother, like her brain. And her mom's the anger in her mother's head just goes, well, there's a preview of the next 10 years. And I was like, yep, that's relatable. That's very relatable. No, but I just thought it was so funny. And there were so many moments in this film that made me laugh out loud, which doesn't happen that much for me when it comes to children's movies. Like, I'll think it's cute, you know, I'll have a giggle every now and again, but like, I genuinely thought this movie was so funny in so many different ways. I laughed, I cried, I did both, you know, just all the things. But there were also so many emotional and sweet quotes that I loved. For example, when Riley's anxiety attack ended, there were these yellow orbs floating around, which, as you know, is Joy's color. And sadness turned to joy and said, I think Riley wants you. And I was like, no, I literally, if I wasn't crying then, I was crying. As if I wasn't crying before, then I definitely was crying. I thought that was super sweet. And then there was also joy when she felt defeated. She said to the others, maybe this is what happened. This is what happens when you grow up. You feel less joy, which that hit so hard for me. It's not even that I feel less joy now that I'm an adult. It's just that as an adult, you start to realize the harsher realities of life, and that just sucks. But that quote definitely got to me, like really got to me. It hit me right in the heart. So moving on, there were also a lot of minor characters that I didn't talk about in the beginning that I thought were great, like all those characters in the depths of Riley's suppressed emotions. So there was that video game character that she had a crush on, that cartoon dog and his pouchy. I think that was based on Blue's Clues. And Dora, maybe a little bit, but which I thought was pretty funny and kind of endearing. But I found that pretty amusing. And then there was another emotion that had like 2 lines in the movie, nostalgia. It was that cute little old lady with like the pink glasses and the cane and all that. I thought she was so cute. And I love the two lines she had in the movie. I hope she gets more. Like, it'd be, oh my god. It would be so cute if in the third movie we got to see anxiety, Jesus God. It'd be so cute if we, in the third movie, saw Riley as an adult. If it was like, granted, like if it was like the third and final movie, if at the end, we got to see Riley as an adult, right? And we got to see anxiety, we got to see nostalgia. I would cry. I would cry. Disney, take notes. I'm just saying, take notes. She didn't have a lot of lines in this movie, but I think that the two lines she got were great. I think they were so cute. I love her. I also loved how they brought back Pouchy later in the film to help the emotions get back to headquarters when they had like, they were like, Pouchy, really loudly, and he just flew over to them. I'm pretty sure that was a Mickey Mouse Clubhouse reference, right? There's a lot of references in this movie, which I liked a lot. Like a lot of inspiration from like childhood TV shows, which I really appreciated. I also liked the friendships in this movie a lot. I really liked the friendships in this movie a lot. And even though Riley, Grace, and Bree weren't really on good terms for most of the movie, I still could tell that their friendship was really solid, and I was really happy to see that worked out for them at the end of it. And I also really liked Val and Riley's friendship as well. It was nice to see someone mentoring Riley and guiding her, making her feel welcome to high school. I thought that was really nice to see. So, yeah, I don't know how long this video is going to end up being. It might be a little shorter than I figured, but yeah, overall, I felt like this movie checked all the boxes, to be honest. It was funny, it was sweet, it was wholesome. I laughed, I cried, I smiled. I thought it was great. I absolutely loved it. And I seriously recommend that you do see it if you haven't already. I hope you guys have seen it already, since I basically spoiled everything in this movie. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun analyzing this movie, and I'm so excited to see this movie again once it comes out on streaming. So if anyone has any media that you guys want me to review, movies, TV, even books, like I said, I've been getting a lot into reading. So if you guys want me to review any of these things, you want me to rank characters from a movie or TV show, you want me to just anything TV or movie or book, you can anything you want me to talk about, I will definitely take all your suggestions into consideration. And yeah, just write me in the comments and I will be sure to get back to you. I hope you guys all have a great night, day, whatever, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.